Howdy y'all, Caleb here. This past weekend I took a pretty fun list to a tournament. I played 3 games and had a lot of fun. That's the important part. Win, losses, they don't matter, right? It's all about how much fun you have playing this game. Sometimes. Alright, so here is my list. We'll talk through that. We'll talk through my 3 games. And we may have a special guest here for Game 3 rundown. So, my list, I'm taking Seraphon with Kotal's Claw. That way, in Coalesce, with Kotal's Claw, Coalesce gives you -1 damage because of Scaly Skin. That applies to all the Saurus units, the monsters, the Kroxigor, basically the entire list except for the Skink Star Priest, or Star Seer. So, can be a tough list if you're going up against -2 damage attacks, because that -1 damage will really affect that. Basically doubles your wounds if you think about it that way. My grand strategy, I was trying something here. Since this is a fun tournament, I'm taking a Realm Shaper Guardian as my grand strategy. Now this is one from Seraphon, and if you have a Realm Shaper on your board here, which of course you would as Seraphon, as long as it survives the game, doesn't get smashed to rubble, and there's no units within 12 from your enemy of the Realm Shaper, then you get this grand strategy. In my head, I knew this was going to be tough, but I kind of wanted to play it just to see if it was doable. If I could actually get this grand strategy, even though it sounds difficult. The answer? No. This was too difficult. This was not a good grand strategy. In fact, I failed it all 3 games I played. So I was hoping I wouldn't come up against an army that had like good teleports or summons to get extra bodies and things like that. All 3 of the opponents I played, all 3 could do that. And so this was like a guaranteed 3 points that they could deny me just by getting close to my Realm Shaper engine. So I would not recommend taking Realm Shaper Guardians. I probably won't be taking that in the future. Definitely interesting to see how I can do with it though. My leaders here are Saurus Astrolith Bearer. So I'm taking this for a couple reasons. One, it's a cheap Saurus hero. So he's only 140 points. He's not the cheapest, but he's the cheapest that still has utility. I'm giving him he's my general. I'm also giving him the command trait Vengeful Defender, so that he can move himself and up to 2 other units, Saurus or Kroxigor. Primarily looking at the Aggradons, but it's useful for the Saurus Warriors too. They get a move in the hero phase. Very good for board control, for alpha striking, for getting units where they need to go. Very, very good command trait. Also taking an artifact, Arcane Tome. Now this plays interesting into the Saurus Astrolith Bearer here because that makes him a wizard, so that helps with Andorian Locust stuff. But he also now buffs himself. The Astrolith comes with natural buffs of +1 to cast for wizards and +6 to range for wizards. So on Arcane Tome, that helps you if you're trying to cast Mystic Shield, which I did. Or I'd taken an endless spell here with Malevolent Maelstrom. And this allows him to cast that at an extra +1 to cast and 6-inch range, which means you can throw this thing pretty much all the way across the board turn 1. And that is a great spell. For 30 points, it does a lot of work. What it does is it starts ticking up its power level. It starts at 1. Any extra spells that are cast within range of it adds 1 to the power level. Any models that die within range of it add 1 to the power level. As soon as it gets to 6, it explodes, and it does D3 mortal wounds to everybody within range. And it also does 3 mortal wounds to wizards. A very good spell that can do quite a bit of damage, and it's only 30 points. So as I was building my list, I originally had the Aggradon Scar Veteran in there, but for about the same points, I can bring the Astrolith, who he kind of buffs everything else, gives everybody a ward save, a 6-up ward save that's in range, and this Maelstrom. It just seemed like a lot better value proposition than just the Scar Veteran on Aggradon, giving +1 attacks once a game to the Aggradons. So I like this a lot better. That ward save came in vital quite a few times. So a good little piece, a good little tech piece that hopefully works well. The Skink Star Seer, I'm taking him. A lot of utility here in a small package as well. You've got that once per game, hand out a 5-up ward save to a bunch of units. So you can, usually you try to pop this in round 2, give it to like your Warriors or your Aggradons if they're still tied up, or Aggradons and Kroxigor. So a nice, useful ability. Generally, I'm trying to pop that always in round 2, just so you have a little bit better chance to make it more worthwhile. But his spells are amazing. Heavenly Frenzy, is just fantastic in this army. I took this instead of Horror Frost. That was kind of what I was thinking about. Horror Frost or Heavenly Frenzy, since you can only take one. I ended up going Heavenly Frenzy because it really helps out with my mobility. My Lancers are going to be faster. My Kroxigor are going to be faster if I choose them. But it also plays into some nice strategy. If I have to go first, I can get my Lancers all the way across the board. With Heavenly Frenzy, I can also get my Kroxigor all the way across the board. Or if I want to, I can send my Stegodon, which we'll talk about here in a second, all the way across the board too. So there's a lot of options here for mobility in this list with Vengeful Defender and Heavenly Frenzy, so I really like that about it. My battle line, I'm taking Aggradon. Oh, also the Skink Starseer has a great spell to shut off wards. Don't forget about that one because it is fantastic. And it also gets extra range. Normally it's short range, 12 inches, but with the Astrolith near him, that goes up to 18 inches. You're able to shut off some key units at that range with that spell, so very good. Battle line, I'm taking 6 Aggradons, which they really benefit from that new unit cohesion, so I really love running a unit of 6. They can line up side by side, charge straight at the enemy. You can Alpha Strike with these guys with the combo we talked about just a second ago, and so a very, very good unit now. Especially for the points, they went down in points. I really like them. A great all-around unit. They're not the toughest. They're not the fastest. They're not gonna survive the longest. But they kind of do everything pretty good. So a good jack of all trades. Kroxigor here. I also took 6 of them. That's battle line in Kotal's Claw. So that kind of helps out there. Also, they benefit from the unit cohesion. They can go 6 wide and they can do quite a bit of damage. I think their one downside is that they don't have a unit champion. They're not elite, so they can't issue commands to themselves. So they really have to be babysat by a hero, and I don't really have that in this list. So that did kind of turn into a weakness where the Kroxigor, they kind of got left on their own a few times, and that really hurt them as far as staying alive in the game, doing more damage, playing this thing we call Age of Sigmar. So I also have 2 units of Source Warriors reinforced at 20. They make really, really good anvils. That's 40 wounds, usually at a 3-up save. I'm trying to get Mystic Shield on them. All-out defense. They turn into a really difficult unit to shift. I kind of like a unit of 20 that seems like about the right amount. 30 gets a little unwieldy and maybe is too many points in one unit. But 20 is, I feel like, is kind of the sweet spot. That it does use up all my reinforcement points. I used all 4 reinforcement points, but kind of spread it out over the whole army, and I think it played well. My Behemoth is a Stegodon. I was kind of debating whether to take a Spawn of Chotek here to give extra buffs, if you roll well, or the Stegodon, and I went with the Stegodon because I think it plays a little bit of a multi-role here. It's only 260 points now, which I think is a great price point for it, and it starts to feel a lot better there. This Stegodon plays into a couple different strategies for me. One, it's a skink keyword. So it is a skink unit which can score the battle tactic Seraphon has for a skink unit to grab an objective. That is great because the Stegodon unit counts as 10 on an objective. A lot of times you can sneak it onto an objective, just kind of get that toe on it, and you can steal an objective from someone. So that's a very easy way to get that battle tactic. And I think I ended up doing that just about every game. And so I really like the Stegodon for that in a coalesced army where that battle tactic is a little bit harder to do. He also offers a little bit of shooting. To be honest, not really a whole lot. I think he sniped off a hero or 2 that got left alone or kind of helped take off a little bit of a unit, but shooting wasn't that big a deal. Another good thing that comes along with that Stegodon package is its monstrous action. It does have a unique monstrous action where on a 4-up, the enemy unit is going to fight last. That is great when it goes off, especially if you're combo charging stuff. If you can get this Stegodon and Lancers in together, if maybe you get the Stegodon and the Kroxigor in together, or maybe all 3 if you're real lucky, then that monstrous action goes off. Everything is fighting before that unit does. And so a really nice tech piece that's worked really well in practice. Unfortunately, in this tournament, I don't think I once got that monstrous action off. That was unfortunate. It is a dice roll. It is a 4-up, so you are going to fail that half the time. But never really got that to go off. But it did score battle tactics for me, and so I think it paid for itself there. 260 for that, I think, is well worth it. Endless Spell, Maelstrom, we talked about that. A very good Endless Spell for 30 points. I think it's pretty aggressively priced. I I think it might see a point raise on the next time, so play it while you can. All of that going into a battle regiment for 1-drop. I think you're going to see battle regiments a lot, even more than last General's Handbook. The battle regiment is just so prevalent and so powerful, being able to determine priority. In fact, every single army that I played in this tournament was a 1-drop. So I think you're either going to see 1-drops or you don't care. You're going high drops and it doesn't matter. So that was battle regiment is going to be seen a lot. We do have 160 wounds in this list. That's quite a few wounds in this Coalesce list, and that makes it pretty tough to remove all these units. I like that a lot. I like getting that high wounds in Coalesced, and I did it this way without just spamming warriors. We had a little bit of a diversity here of different units, and so it was kind of fun. Anyway, that's my list. We'll look at how it performed in this tournament. Game 1, I'm playing against Esteban and his Soulblight Gravelords. So he's got a lot of wounds here to match my wound output. He is playing Legion of Night, so he's got some good teleporting stuff. He's got 2 Vampire Lords on foot, a Manfred as a big caster to do some heavy casting here. And you can see his list. He's actually nice enough to write us all exactly what each one of these things does. So that does make it a little easy to understand the list while you're looking at it. I like that a lot. But he has a lot of tricks in this army. Lots of movement shenanigans, lots of stuff being resurrected. And so it's going to be an attrition fight between, is his stuff resurrected fast enough or is my stuff tough enough? Unfortunately, I don't think he had anything that had 2 damage. I guess maybe Manfred did. But all of his battle line skeletons and Graveguard all were taking 1 damage weapons. So my toughness didn't really help here much. For battle line, he did have a big unit of Death Rattle skeletons, some Fellbats just to capture objectives. He had another unit of skeletons, a Mortis engine, which helps you regen some stuff, and then 2 big beefy units of Graveguard. And so those were reinforced, and that would help him out with some damage output that he needed. And then he also has Geminids and, of course, a battle regiment for the whole thing. So exactly 2,000 points. So good list there, lots of bodies. And on to, let's look at our game type here. The game types we're playing, we had some guys practicing for the Outlaw Open coming up next weekend. And so these are taken from their pack. And you can see like some terrain rules here. That's what the T is. It shows how the terrain's going to be set up. So this one we're playing Spring the Trap, which is, we got 3 objectives, kind of skinny deployment zones. And then you get to pull D3 units back up off the board, put them in reserves. Neither one of us ended up doing that. We liked how we had our deployment, and so we kept it that way. We were both 1-drop. I won the deployment priority, and so I gave him first turn. You can see our deployments here. I've got my 2 warriors set up as my screens in case he decides to pull anything out of the grave and charge me. And I kept my Aggradons and Kroxigor back screened a little bit. If he comes into this side, there wasn't really a whole lot of room because of this terrain piece, but if he tried to, then the Kroxigor were there to smack around those hordes a little bit, and then Aggradons could answer back. He ended up not playing too aggressive on turn 1, and really just kind of moved up the board to take the objectives. He did teleport Manfred here in the middle, and then cast a bunch of spells onto my stuff, and did some damage to my heroes. Not really enough to kill any of them off, but enough to work off some wounds. He moved over some skeletons. I think he brought some skeletons up from the grave to take that left side, move this big block of Graveguard over to the right, or maybe that's skeletons. That may be the Graveguard. He's got a big block of skeletons here in the middle. That would take the middle objective. So he takes the board, turn 1. Doesn't do a ton of damage to me, so I'm feeling okay about that. But does score max points there. On my turn, I shift my warriors on this right side to start heading towards the right objective, get the Stegodon up to the middle, and push a big unit of Source Warriors over to the left, and sent the Kroxigor that way to deal with the skeletons as well. So they all ran over to the left, so I'm kind of splitting my forces to the objectives, and then I'm going to hit down the middle with the Aggradons. My Aggradons, I did Vengeful Defender with them, got the Heavenly Frenzy on them, so they moved all the way across the board and attacked this skeleton unit. because of the way the terrain was set, I couldn't quite get all 6 of them into combat, but I think I ended up getting maybe 4 or 5 of them there after pylons, and I was able to clear that skeleton block. They did come back at half strength, I think, but you've got to start wearing them down, and you can't leave any alive when you attack them, because then they'll just start coming back. Aggradons stayed in combat here with this Mortis engine, and took a little while for them to get chewed through, and so that was good because I was able to kind of pin him back on that side. I don't think I had any other pictures for this one. No. So as the board developed, he had most of his strength over here that was left here, and I held these 2 objectives here in the middle. At the end of 2, I think he didn't max out his second turn scores, and I did. So I had maxed out my stuff on my 2 turns, and he hadn't quite done his. And I think that's where the point differential existed, and carried through to the rest of the game. So we weren't able to finish the entire game. I think we were just having too much fun rolling dice at each other and talking about the new battle tactics and figuring out these new game plans. So we didn't quite finish it. We had to talk it out, but in the end, I think that one round where he didn't get max points was probably what made the difference. I can't remember if it was a battle tactic or just not quite scoring all the objectives, but those few points made the difference. So great game there with Esteban. Game 1 versus Soulblight. It was a grind fest, but I think being able to shoot those Aggradons over there and pin some stuff back really helped me out on that turn. So, all right, on to Game 2. Game 2, I got Soulblight Gravelords again. I'm feeling okay because my Kroxigor had some good attacks last time. Maybe I can do the same thing here. We've got lots of Hordes. Maybe they can swing away. Aggradons could do the same. We'll see. So Soulblight Gravelords, I'm playing Marcus, a very good player we've got here. He's playing Legion of Night, and he's bringing Nagash. I haven't seen Nagash in a while, and so that was interesting to play against the Nagash. Plays very well into this magic-heavy General's Handbook we have, but he still kind of falls to that same trap of if you've got a lot of points tied up in one model, if somebody can shoot him off the board before he ever really has a chance to do anything, then it's pretty much an instant lose. Luckily for him, I don't have any shooting in this list, and so it's going to be a mashup. So he's got Nagash, he's got a Vampire Lord with Merciless Blizzard. That one comes into effect here in this game. He's got a White King, so he's got his 2 small foot heroes that can do some fun stuff. He's got 3 units of Skeletons and then a big unit of Graveguard. His Graveguard did have the big 2-handed weapons, and so they do 2 damage, so I feel a little bit better about that. That's at least going to help me a little bit survive. And then he's got Maelstrom and Umbral Spell Portal for all in a battle regiment at 1990. I did win priority in this one. We are playing, I keep going too fast. Let's go Power Flux. This is our game type we're playing, Power Flux. And this is the one where you activate either A or B. So either your 2 home objectives or the 2 on the sides. And so you do get extra points for having a locus on one of those objectives, and you get an extra point for killing wizards. So we both have, he has 3 wizards, I have 2, so we'll get some extra points that way. He has Andorian locuses to cap objectives, so we are going to be able to score some points here. Our deployment's kind of like this, because of the terrain, it almost kind of lines us up in these lanes. So we've got this one big lane down the middle, and then we've got kind of a lane on each flank, and that's kind of how the game played out. We really played into these 3 lanes, split our forces up, and then had that big fight out there. You can see our deployment a little bit better here. This is after his first turn. I did win priority, and so I made him go first. He did quite a bit of damage in melee, or in magic, and was able to kill quite a bit of stuff. He got Maelstrom up this time. The rest of the game, I was actually able to keep him from getting Maelstrom up. I was able to unbind that using Primal Dice, and that was big because he's able to really power up Maelstrom really fast and then explode it. So it did go off this first turn. It hurt a lot of my stuff, but it didn't kill any of my heroes. I think that was good because my heroes, I need them to stick around for at least one turn. But he got him critically wounded, and will kill off the general in not too long. So I felt okay about for turn 1. Nothing died, and so I feel okay. A's were active, and so I knew he wasn't going to be able to take my objective from me. And then maybe I can push into him and start putting a lot of pressure on him to keep him out of the rest of the board. So on my turn, I send the Aggradons up into his skeletons, and I send the warriors into Nagash. I was kind of just hoping to bog Nagash down with the warriors to where he wasn't going to be as effective. Now, a lot of his stuff, it doesn't matter. Like all the magic damage, he doesn't matter if he's in combat. But I was hoping maybe I could wear him down with the warriors. Unfortunately, they just really did not do enough damage into Nagash. Every damage they would do, he would just heal it right back up. I was a little disappointed in their output. Of course, they are fighting Nagash, who usually had Mystic Shield, all-out defense on. Sometimes he had Finest Hour, so I wasn't getting anything through. The Aggradons were a little bit of a disappointment here. They crushed into these skeletons and left 3 alive. That's the one thing you can't do against those Soulblight hordes, is leave any alive, because he just started resurrecting them. I think throughout the rest of the game, he eventually got him back to full strength. And that's all because I left 3 little dorky skeletons alive to just sit there and be a nuisance. So over here on this left side, I took the Saurus warriors. And I don't know that I took this objective turn 1. I wasn't too worried about it, but maybe I did. It didn't matter because it wasn't scoring anyway. Over on the right side, I start moving the Kroxigor up, hoping to crush into some other skeletons that he had over here on the right side. So I ended up leaving my Stegodon on my home objective, right in the middle of it, so he couldn't bring up any grave guard from any hordes or anything from this gravestone. So I could hold on to my objective with that Stegodon while I push everything else forward. Let's see what other. Oh, here's we got this melee going in here. Just wasn't able to kill off those skeletons. Probably, they do have a 5-up ward while they're near either Nagash or that hero. I can't remember which one. So, pushed it there. On my turn, on turn 2, he got priority. So I picked bees to go as the active ones, and I kind of wanted to see what would happen. I haven't played this battle type at all yet, and so I kind of wanted to see how this would play out if I selected the bee objectives. And I think that was actually probably a good position to play. Now, it allowed him to score both of them in his turn, which is a little unfortunate, but I'm able to push onto them in my turn, and then if I can get priority, I'm going to be able to hold these things, or I can push into his if he switches them back. So I kind of like that, where I forced him to spread out a little bit, and then I can answer it back if I get priority, and if he switches them. Which kind of leaves him in a bad spot if he has to choose. Does he switch him back or does he keep him? I feel good about that. So I put that pressure on. Unfortunately, he wins priority, so I keep B active because I feel like I'm holding that well. And I don't think he's able to take him back from me that turn. But it's at this point I'm starting to lose that attrition fight. I've won this objective. And I still have Kroxigor over here, but they're unsupported now. My general's dead. My Aggradons, they just got completely debuffed by Nagash, and so they're just sitting there just taking Merciless Blizzard every turn, and they're not doing enough damage anymore because they're like -1 to wound, they're -1 to hit or something, they're -1 damage, they're just taking, or -1 attacks, I think, too. So they're just taking a ton of debuffs, and they're just not able to kill off those skeletons. It was so frustrating. They did tank Merciless Blizzard twice. They took Merciless Blizzard to the face twice, back-to-back turns, and I still had Aggradons left. So that was awesome. Maybe he rolled low on the Blizzard. It seemed it was like 14 or 15 or something like that. But I think I warded off a couple or something. I don't remember. But somehow I still had an Aggradon left over after that. Eventually, though, he gets some grave guard up from the grave, and they make maybe not from the grave, maybe they came over to the right-hand side. Whatever it was, I had wished I could redeploy the Kroxigor, and I think that would have saved him. Or maybe if I could have done like all-out defense or something, maybe they would have been okay. But since they're not elite, they don't have a commander, that they just evaporated to the grave guard. So lost that side, and now basically I hold the left side in my middle, and he holds his side in the right. And it's coming down to I failed. I think I failed a battle tactic. Oh, I do have a picture for that. I sent in the Stegodon, and I needed to kill off it was like 10 skeletons or something. It was a long shot. because they were counting as 2 on an objective, but the Stegadon just completely whiffed everything. Like, every single hit missed. I didn't get anything through. So that hurt. I failed that battle tactic, and at the end of the game, he was able to get Nagash back over to my Realm Shaper engine and prevent me from getting my grand strategy, and I lost by 3 points. So a good game here. Lots of melee combat happening. Lots of good fights. I think at this point, we actually both lost our grand strategy. So I lost by 3 points. Grand strategy in the end only prevented me from getting the draw, which draws are never fun. So great game there. I could not deal with Nagash here. I think maybe if I had on this original charge, if I could have gotten my Aggradons maybe into Nagash, maybe they got -2 Ren, maybe I could have gotten something through. But he was so tough at that point that I was just hoping to clear these skeletons and work towards his objective. I just couldn't do it. All right, so good game. He won the attrition fight for sure. I was able to heal up enough stuff, resurrect enough stuff, and keep me going. I didn't actually lose either one of my Saurus warrior units, so that was nice. But I lost my Aggradons and my Kroxigor and my Stegadon eventually, and just didn't have enough on the board to score those battle tactics. So, good game, Marcus. And on to game 3. All right, my game 3 was against Axton, my son, so that was pretty fun. We've never fought at a tournament yet. We obviously play against each other all the time at home, but we're going to have a chance to play in a competitive setting. May the best man win. All right, Axton, tell me about your list here.
So I have Stormcast Eternals, I have Hammers of Sigmar, Sounds of the Storm, so I can put half my army in the sky, and then Hammers of Sigmar gives me where if I'm wholly within 12, I get a 6-up ward.
Wholly within 12 of what? An objective?
Oh, yeah, an objective.
Okay.
I have Lord Lictor, who has High Priest and Mirror Shield. High Priest gives him a reroll for a prayer, and Mirror Shield he can't be shot with unless you're within 9. Okay. I have a Battle Mage. And
you have Translocate on the Relictor, so it makes him a really good teleportation boss. Mm-hmm. He's just sending stuff all around the board, and the Translocate Prayer is on a 2-up now, re-rolling 1s, so almost automatic. What's a Battle Mage for?
So in Battle Mage, he's from the Mortal Realm Gur, which gives him his spell Wild Form, which gives you +2 to run and charge, which really helps my Fulminators when I need them to get in. He also has Merciless Blizzard, so I can try to cast that.
Yeah, he's a good buff piece for any of the units, but specifically Fulminators.
Yeah.
You're giving them +2 to run a charge, and then you're teleporting them wherever you need to go. So they have a 7-inch charge that they need to make. Mm-hmm. And they'll kill just about anything they touch in general. So, what's your battle line?
So I have 6 Tempestors. They help because of the cohesion rule, so that they can line straight up. Otherwise, if it's like a tight fit, kind of, not all of them will be able to shoot because their bases are so big.
Yeah.
I have 4 Fulminators, which can do more damage when they charge, and Vindictors just to fill the slot of battle line. So my other units, I have Vanguard Paladors, which instead of moving or retreat, they can go anywhere on the board outside of 9 of enemy units.
They're really good for capturing or scoring battle tactics and capturing objectives and stuff like that. They're a decently tough unit. They count as 2 each on objectives, so they can. You can't be yawning right now in the middle of the. We're just starting your battle report. 3 games is a lot. All right, so Paladors. What else you got? You got Ballista.
So my Ballista, my strategy is for it. It's gonna go somewhere far away from your guys, like in the back corner.
Yeah.
So then it can shoot you with its 1 shot that it has. It can do D6 wounds. So could do 1, could do 6.
Yeah.
So you either commit something and it takes you like 2 turns to get there and kill it, which is fine because it's only 130 points, or you just let it shoot you all game.
Okay. Did anybody ever kill it, or did you just shoot it most of the game?
I think one game someone killed it.
Okay. And you're all in a battle regiment for the 1-drop.
My grand strategy is slaughter sorcery, so I'm kill all wizards. How I do that, since I have a battle mage, I'll either try to he'll either charge in, blow himself up with a merciless blizzard, or walk off the edge of the board.
Okay. So you've got a self-sacrifice that's got to happen to get your grand strategy.
Yeah.
Did you get your grand strategy most of the game? Most of the tournament?
Yeah, I think I got it all but one.
Okay. At this point, we were both 1-1 going into game 3, so only one of us could go home with a winning record. Who will it be? So we're going to play Geomantic Pulse, which is a game type where at the start of the second round, whoever gets the priority, the other person is going to choose one of these objectives, and it's going to start either at A or B and work its way to the other side of the board. So pretty important because you get extra points for the one that's the active objective, and then 1 extra points for the one on each side of it. So it's pretty important where that ends up going. Our deployment here, I did win priority on to turn 1, so I'm going to force him to go first. I drop all my stuff down like this. I'm playing heavier to the right-hand side, a little bit lighter to the left hand. I have 1 big unit of warriors on the left, 1 on the right. In the middle, I have Kroxigor as a screen, which I don't really want Kroxigor as a screen, but I had to do it because the board is so spread wide. I got to be able to answer to the left or to the right. They're setting up a screen for my Aggradons, so I can countercharge with the Aggradons. If he sends Fulminators into Kroxigor, then I can countercharge with the Aggradons. On the right-hand side, I've got the Starseer, Warriors, and the Stegodon. What about your deployment?
So what I do, usually when I have Fulminators and Paladors, is I'll line them up 3 inches from the Fulminator. So if you do charge them, they'll block you from ever getting to the Fulminators, so you can't hit them. But what I do is, since they can teleport every turn, I'll teleport them out if I teleport the Fulminators. So
Yeah, so you've castled up, but you've got a lot of movement. Paladors can both teleport anywhere they want to. You're going to be teleporting the Fulminators. You're going to drop down Tempestors, Ballista, Vindictors.
Yeah.
Was there anything else? So you've got a lot of movement around the board. So that helps out a lot there. In retrospect, so I gave him first turn. He's going to have to go first. I think I might have done better if I had pressed the attack harder. So if I had lined up in a way that I know his formation, I knew he was going to do that. We've played against each other a whole lot. I know that if he gets the double turn from 1 to 2, those Tempestors are going to shred my army. The Fulminators will shred my army. But I think if I could have pressed hard with these Aggradons, gotten him over into his line, and forced him to deal with them before he moves out of his castle area to the objectives, and maybe I think I could have gotten on a better foot. I let him go first, and you hit me pretty hard. What'd you do?
So what I did was I got my +2 to run and charge on my Fulminators from Battle Mage. I teleported them to this left side block warriors, so I could charge into them. Then in movement, I think I moved these Paladors, 1 over to the right one, and then 1 like in the middle. And then I started running my Battle Mage up so I could eventually cast Merciless Blizzard. Then I dropped down the rest of my army, so I put the Ballista on this far one right here because I knew if I could make the charge, my Ballista would be safe there, and maybe I could hold that objective for a while. I put my Vindictors on the this one so that they could hold that one for a turn. And then I draw my Tempestors right in front of this Kroxigor unit. So then hopefully I could shoot them off. If I do, maybe charge the Aggradons to tie them up.
Yep. So good play there. He's going to hit my Source Warriors over here on the left. So he's kind of moving his army to my left flank where it's a little bit weaker. But that leaves me on the right side. I feel like fairly strong over on the right side. He put his Fulminators here in the Source Warriors. And Fulminators will kill just about anything on the charge except Source Warriors.
Well, the only reason is that because they have 2 wounds, -1 to damage, and a +1 to save.
Yeah, so since they're in my territory, so yep. So they can be pretty tough. That's 40 wounds at -1 damage. We've played against each other enough to know that the Fulminators aren't going to kill them. And so, but he's got to charge fulminators into something and start working them down. The biggest thing it does is it pins me back into my territory with those guys, so I can't effectively put any pressure on these 2 left side objectives. So that's kind of what he's done. He does wipe out the Kroxigor with the Tempestors, and then ties up the Warriors there. So a good play there to keep me pinned back in my territory. In retrospect, I probably should have done that to you instead. So on my turn, he's got his Tempestors here lined up basically where the Kroxigor are. And I'm able to charge in my Aggradon, but I don't want to charge immediately into the Tempestors because the Tempestors will annihilate anything that charges them. Their Unleash Hell is really good because they have mortal, they possibly do up to 6 D3 mortal wounds, and then, up to 36 shots back at you. So they have a lot of damage they can do. And so I had to make the decision. Do I send in my Aggradons, get half of them killed, or do I send in something that, if it gets killed, I don't care about too much? I couldn't risk sending my Warriors on the right-hand side into them because I need them to pressure the objectives over here on the right. So I send in my Starseer, my Skink Starseer, which I was not happy about doing, but I already got his buffs off that turn. So I send him in. He obviously gets killed in Overwatch, but that allows me to send in my Aggradons into the Tempestors. And I like that fight. Tempestors are still tough because they have a 3-up save and you're all-out defense them. My -2 rend helps a lot in that fight, but it's a grind fest and it keeps both of us pinned up there. Eventually, the Aggradons do win that fight, but it takes them, at least 2 turns, I think, if not, if that. There we go. Let's go back to here. So he pushes that side hard. I win priority going into 2, and I take it because I felt like I could put more pressure on the board and deal with his units. Mostly the Aggradons. I wanted to make sure the Tempestors didn't have a chance to fire, and then so I could attack with the Aggradons first and clear them off. But in retrospect, I probably should have given you priority because since you were going second, he got to choose the which objective was active. And he chose the one over on the left side, which I can't put any pressure onto.
Yeah, but that also helps because since my Fulminators and Tempestors were pinned with the 2 units closest to that objective, it did help me score more points off of it.
Yeah. So he's getting more points for the next 2 or 3 rounds, where if I had given up priority going into 2, it would have started over here on the right-hand side, which I think I held at that point, because didn't I run and charge the Warriors? So in retrospect, I probably should have done that. Maybe that would have made it a little bit closer of a game, and it would have worked this side, and I would have helped control those points a little bit more. I probably would have lost my Aggradons faster over here, but maybe it would have helped me score points. So we have this fight over here on the left-hand side. Eventually, I think I left one Tempestor alive, which on your turn he retreated out. The Fulminators eventually retreated out as well because they weren't chewing through those. My Warriors over here were champ. They held these 2 objectives as I needed. But, I did something fun with the Stegodon. I was going to get the Skink battle tactic to score an objective from you. So I sent my Stegodon over into 3 Paladors. I thought for sure it would kill 3 Paladors, right? A Stegodon should kill 3 Paladors. The Paladors are 190 points. 4-up save. I can do this. I send that Stegodon over there, and I think the Paladors got to attack first. I think that's what happened, because I had some other combats. I tried to stomp them, do the 4-up fight last. It didn't work. The Paladors hit really well. The Paladors, almost killed them. I think they got him down to 2 or 3 wounds left.
Yeah.
Which would have been disastrous because that was my grand strategy. I thought it was, guaranteed.
Battle tactic.
Yeah, battle tactic, yeah. And so he was over there. He nearly died to 3 Paladors, which was really embarrassing.
I was so close. If he could have killed 1, because when my guys die, they'll 6s do mortal wounds back. If he could have killed 1, maybe I could have killed him.
Oh, yeah, off the exploding Stormcast armor. Yeah, that would have been bad. So I did score that one to keep it close and put some pressure on that side. So it came down to really, I think, the objectives, where they were traveling and you being able to hold on to these things. So at the end of the game, you were able to teleport a unit over to my Realm Shaper engine. And that really helped out too, because that prevented my grand strategy. Yeah. You got your grand strategy by blowing up your own battle mage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he casts Merciless Blizzard and primal miscast on purpose to make sure he killed his own battle mage. So he was able to get his grand strategy, and I failed mine, and that was the game right there. I think you won by 5 points. Great game, a lot of fun. Had some good battles there. Anything else you want to add for that game?
It's a lot harder with the battle tactics, because if your opponent can get if their army's built to get all of them, and you're not, if you miss one, then might lose the game off of that.
Yeah. I think your list probably did a little bit better job than mine did building towards the battle tactics, because you have so much stuff that can move around the board and teleport and that kind of thing. I think your army was built a little bit better for the battle tactics. You probably got the one where you have the 3 units on the edge of the board like every game. I don't know that I ever got that in the tournament. So I think that's one that's fairly easy that you can build towards and achieve most of the time. Yeah. I do have some easier book battle tactics than you do, though, so that helps kind of even that field out. Stormcast doesn't have the easiest book battle tactics. So all right, good game. Axon came out the winner. So you beat me in a competitive environment, so now I can pass the mantle on to you. Axon will be taking over my channel now, so maybe not. Besides, you're not a Seraphon player. Get out of here. No. That was a good game we had. A lot of fun. Get to play each other competitively and for real, not just at home. So, all right. Let's see. Wrap up. How did I like my army? I think the army played pretty well into what it was trying to do.
20 minutes.
I think it played decently well into what I was trying to do. I think I need to work on some list building stuff for battle tactics. I think that's probably where I'm lacking, is being able to get some easier battle tactics. I think if I look at the list, obviously Realm Shaper Guardians is gone. We're getting a different grand strategy, so I can get an extra 3 points every game. So that one I think I definitely need to work on. I think in general, I always had Battle Line alive, so that might be one. What is it, like Overshadow or something, that where you kill other Battle Line and keep your Battle Line alive. In this specific list, my Battle Line was very hard to kill. I think the Astrolith and the Starseer, I think that combo worked pretty well. The Maelstrom from the Astrolith Bear was a lot of fun. Did a lot of mortal wounds, and that kind of helped me on some range damage. Starseer did pretty well. Aggradon Lancers, I absolutely love them. They did great for me when they got to attack at full strength. That was always a lot of fun. Kroxigor, I think, suffered a little bit. That might be where I might make some additions. I'm not real sure if Kroxigor are doing what I want them to do. They do enough damage, but they suffer without the support of a hero. They really do. You could always add in a minimum unit of skinks to give them something, to give them some extra ability to do command points. But at that point, you're just better off taking Aggradon Lancers, if I'm being honest. So the Warriors were fantastic. I really love them as an anvil. They work so well that way. So I was really happy with the Warriors. They really didn't do a lot of damage, though, even though I did spears on them. So I think you have to put buffs into them if you want them to do damage. And on this one, I didn't really have a lot of things to buff specific attacks and units. I was going really more off just the core War Scroll attacks. I had movement shenanigans, but not really a whole lot to buff the specific units. So I think the way you do that, I mean, you've got to, if you want to buff them up, you've either got to take a Slann for Empower Celestite, a Spawn of Chotek, give them extra Rend, or the Starseer. Or not the Starseer, the Skink Star Priest, to give them some mortal wound output. I think that those could have helped here. The Starseer having the double cast is really nice, but I think I could see myself switching out for a Skink Priest if I'm taking the Warriors on this one. Maybe I'm gonna have to play around with it. Stegodon did really good. I was happy with him. Most games he was able to score me that battle tactic. You could switch him out for some Raptidons, and they would probably perform some of the same roles if you're not looking for that monstrous action. But I was pretty happy with Stegodon. Maelstrom, I can't remember if I talked about, but the Maelstrom, it did really well. It's a combo that I was looking at taking either the Astrolith and the Maelstrom or the Scar Veteran on Aggradon, and I think I was happy taking the Astrolith Bear and the Maelstrom. They performed what they needed to do. The ward save from the Astrolith, all the bonuses he gives, and then this Endless Spell was really good. So overall, I was happy with the unit, but it definitely does need some fine tuning to this list. You know what? Let's just put more Aggradons in it. I think that would fix all my problems. More Aggradons. All right. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.